Hi, Corey. I'm very excited to be speaking with you today about The Color Purple, the new movie musical. I have to
Yes.
ask, were you familiar with the musical before you got cast?
I was very familiar with it. I'm Danielle Brooks. He's a good friend of mine. We went to school together. So I went to see her in it about 4 or 5 times. And also when we first got to school, when we first got to Juilliard, um, the show was already on Broadway. The first iteration of the show was on Broadway. So yeah, very familiar with the original.
It's wonderful to hear. And of course, getting to reunite with Danielle Brooks a decade after being at Juilliard together. What was
Whoa,
it
whoa,
like?
whoa, whoa. Hey, now, come on now. Come on. No, yeah. It's crazy when you think of it.
Yeah,
I mean, wow, over a decade actually at this point. Yeah.
I
It's
didn't say over a decade. I just said a decade. But I'm wondering, like, did you like when you were rehearsing for this, the two of you have so much to do together. Did you fall back on any old exercises you used to do in class or anything? Was it like just running right back into that dynamic or no?
yeah, after knowing each other, I mean, you know, we first met in 2006, I want to say, maybe 2006 or 7. So, I mean, we're coming up pretty soon on 20 years. So there's a language there that is so easy, that when it comes to technique or exercises or things like that, it's just there's a second hand, I think, that also just made the dynamic between Harpo and Sophia that much more rich and that much more nuanced, because we know each other so well, and so we also know each other's quirks, we know each other's uh, habits and stuff, and so we could also push each other in ways, when we found ourselves falling back on tricks and things like that too. So that was fun to just be able to continue, not sort of coasting, but pushing each other and lifting each other up.
I can imagine. And I have to ask, what is it like being on the receiving end of her hell no? Because
Well,
sitting in the audience, we're blown to the back of our seats. Can
I've
only
been I've been
imagine.
I've been on the receiving end of that before, for other things, but in our friendship along the years, no, she's Danielle possesses a quality that is um, so special and so unique and so deep, and to be able to witness that is a gift. And she was the first person I thought they would cast when I was cast, and it was a no-brainer in my head. I think everybody else just had to.
I think for anyone who saw her do it on Broadway,
Exactly,
no
it's a
brainer.
no-brainer.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, man, it was thrilling to be able to watch her do that, and for Harpo, it was he recognized immediately his mistake, his flaw, what happened. He did something that he would was so out of character for him, and he paid dearly for it, and she made sure he knew that.
That she did. um, I So you're working alongside Danielle, who
Hmm.
played Sophia on Broadway,
Hmm.
Fantasia Barrino, who also played Celie on
Yeah.
Broadway, but this is your first time with this character.
Hmm.
How did you get to a place where you felt as comfortable in Harpo's skin as people who had previously played these parts felt in theirs?
Um, well, that's the work, That's the rehearsal process. That's the doing the sort of studied, uh, diving into the history of. I'm a big sort of when I jump into characters, I like to just study the world, and that's why I like working on period pieces. And have had the fortune of working on a few of them. Um, is just to be able to dive into the world of them. It's just dive into uh, I mean, everything from knowing the music of the time to like, I'm a geek with that kind of stuff. Like I want to know, like if the sweater, I want to know what the sweater's made out of and where he got it from, and so for me, it was a lot of conversations with the department heads and also with Kraft and Harpo. These were men, I think the Johnson boys, who stood a little bit differently than other men during that time, and I think they had this style, right? Like it's this thing about um, like even the parts in his hair, you know, which side it would be parted on. This side, sometimes perfectly coiffed afro, you know. So like that kind of work is the thing that sort of drops me in. And then getting behind the eyes. Harpo's a sensitive soul. He's an empath. He's a quiet brother who enjoys letting his woman, you know, allowing his woman to shine. And I think there's something to be said about that for this generation, about new ways of like love and how to break the cycle. Harpo is somebody who's like makes a choice to break that cycle, and so that was fun for me. But a lot of it came from just our conversations, our collaboration with Blitz, and just giving me the freedom to play and paint in the lines a little bit more than maybe what we've seen in the previous versions on Broadway or in the film, or even reading the book, you know.
It's really beautiful. Hearing you say that, I'm reminded that, the last movie musical you did was In the Heights, which
Mm-hmm.
also has a really big, warm, vibrant, familial
Yeah.
feeling to it.
Mm-hmm.
Did that film and this film have similar vibes on set?
It's interesting, right? Because in the Heights, I still play, you know, this young black man. I play this young black man who is finds home. He finds community in Washington Heights, and but you know, it's very specific to the Latino community there. And I actually lived in Washington Heights when I was a student as well for a period of time. So I knew that very well. I knew that with my bones. I know this story with my bones and in my bones in a different way because it's about my community. So for me. The color purple is legacy. You know, the color purple is faith. It's forgiveness. It's sight. It's trust. It's breaking, like I said, those cycles and challenging who we are as humanity. And it's something that honestly, like Oprah, when she talks about it, she's always talks about everything purple is all things divine, and all things purple are all things divine. And to be a part of that legacy now is magic. It's magic for me, you know. So, but Heights, in the Heights, funnily enough, Scott Sanders and Mara Jacobs, they produced that. And Scott Sanders, if I hadn't done In the Heights, after I finished that film, right before we were about to release that, I got a call saying that, you know, Spielberg and Oprah and Blitz and and him and Quincy, everybody signed off on me being their Harpo, and Alice Walker wrote me a beautiful note as well, about being Harpo for this generation. So I was thrilled and honored.
That's a really wonderful call to get and a really wonderful time to get it as well,
That
right?
part. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah.
Um, I think as actors, it's always interesting, and I think that, the roles you take on, they're all part of you, and I think that the characters that you play are oftentimes in conversation with each other.
Absolutely.
And so I'm wondering what advice you think Benny from In the Heights would give to Harpo, and
Ooh.
vice versa.
Wow, wow, that's great. First of all, they're along the same lineage. You know,
Mhm.
Benny could be a descendant of Harpo Johnson. You know, he could definitely be walking in that. Benny is an entrepreneur, right?
Mhm.
Benny is somebody who wants to find his own way, right?
As
Like
is Harpo.
yeah, as is Harpo.
See?
Harpo wants
Hmm.
to start this juke joint, and these are men who have imaginations, young black boys who have imagination and giving them imagination. And I think that's key. Like for me, when I'm picking roles, I'm not interested in the flashy sort of stuff, and it probably precludes me from, you know, a lot of the other Hollywood conversations. But I'm okay with that because I know like my journey is finding these characters like Benny, like Harpo, you know, even Dre, you know, Dr. Dre, or like, you know, I'm just interested in these young brothers who have to figure it out, and make it work, and how they get there. That's the interesting journey for me, is the machinations behind that. So they're all talking to each other. I think that's a great point. I think they're all in conversation, and I hope to keep them in conversation too, for a long time.
That's really wonderful to hear. Corey, thank you so much for joining us today. That's all the time we have. Before I
Thanks, man.
go, I just have to say, I saw you in Top Dog Underdog on Broadway.
Oh,
Both you and Yaya Abdul-Mateen, absolutely electric.
thank you, man. That's
Couldn't
my
get
brother.
enough. I can't wait to see you on the Great White Way again.
Oh man, well, it's gonna be right now. My going rate is about 5 years between every time I come back to Broadway. So
So
we'll
we got some
see.
time.
Yeah, we got some. We got a little bit of time before maybe I might make it back, unless something else calls to me. We'll see. But thank you. I appreciate that and receive that. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Corey.
Thanks.